Okay, welcome. My name is Vitaly Gieman, and welcome everybody. And I have a very special guest. His name is Isaac Getz. And Isaac is a professor in leadership and transformation from Paris. He has a very unique perspective, and particularly he's an expert in corporate liberation. And what I want to ask Isaac, what is corporate liberation? A lot of American and other audience have not heard of it. Um, and how is it different, like, for example, to conscious capitalism? Welcome, Isaac.
Welcome. Thank you for welcoming me to your program, Vitaly. And yes, I will answer to a couple of the questions that you raised here. The first one is before probably talking about corporate liberation, which is a transformation of organizations, of companies. Let me define what is a liberated company, or otherwise sometimes called freedom-based company. And this is a company that allows a complete freedom and responsibility to its employees to take any action they themselves, not their superiors or some kind of procedures, they themselves decide as being the best for company's vision. This type of organization, or let's say this type of companies that articulate or use these philosophies are radically different from the traditional command and control hierarchical bureaucracy type of organizations, where basically employees, most of the employees, they wait for orders and are controlled of how well they execute them. So corporate liberation is this radical transformation of companies from the traditional organizational model towards a liberated company model. And that's what I studied. So I'm specifically a scholar, a student of leadership. I'm not an organizational scholar. And one of the reasons is not that I'm against organizational studies, is that there is no model of a liberated company or freedom-based company. There isn't. There isn't a liberated company for dummies. It's a philosophy that is based on some philosophical concepts, which are freedom on the one hand, responsibility on the other. Without responsibility, freedom is an anarchy, right?
Right.
And without freedom, without the freedom to choose how do you work, with whom you work, on what schedule, being put in charge of something, it's a joke at the best and the punishment at worst. How can you be responsible of something that you can decide on how you do it, with whom you do it, on what schedule? You don't decide about anything, and you're responsible. I mean, responsible of what? So the two come together, and in order to move the company from this traditional hierarchical bureaucracy model towards this liberated company organizational mode, because there is no model, right? Every company has to engage in this radical transformation and try to, let's say, articulate this philosophy in their own unique context, because every company, as it is, has its own human and cultural heritage. They operate in certain geography with certain products. The company has certain history. People have certain habits. And so you have to take into account, it's the total opposite of some kind of social engineering, where you bring in some kind of sophisticated model and you totally ignore the people that are in the organization, and you try to run some kind of change management project. It doesn't happen like that in all the organizations, that at least with the liberated companies, and it's particularly led by the company's leader. Usually, obviously, it's the company's boss, because he has, or owner or CEO, because he is the only one that has a mandate to transform the company. It's not the HR director, unfortunately, or middle level manager. They can influence their CEO, but they can't decide to transform an organization. So we studied, me and Brian Carney, and later on I studied some of multinational corporations on that, how they did it. and that's a long process. It can take a couple of years in order to reach that level there where the majority of employees, they enjoy and have this complete freedom and responsibility. So that's, in a nutshell, what is it about. Maybe to conclude about the experience, I mean, when we wrote our book, we studied several dozen of these companies. The most known is W.L. Gore, that manufactures Gore-Tex, and some others like Harley-Davidson in the United States, like Richards Group, and some others that operate on this, on the principles of this philosophy. However, since our book came out, in particular, I'm based in Paris, France, right?
Can you mention the name of the book again for the audience?
It's called Freedom Inc., like Freedom Incorporated, Freedom Inc. And it came out in the United States in 2009, and it didn't made a big splash, as no other book ever did any splash in 2009 unless it spoke about this financial crisis. So basically, the book didn't probably get, although it was get raving reviews in Wall Street Journal, Forbes, and other places, but it hasn't been read, in my opinion, enough. Now, it became in France, it has been translated to now in 11, 12 countries, including Korea, not Northern Korea, right? Southern Korea, in China, and so on. It has been translated in many languages, and in France it became a real hit, and it's the best-selling business book of the last 4 years. And hundreds of corporations, including some multinationals like Michelin and Airbus, they entered this type of transformations. So conscious capitalism, on just one word, as you understand, it's a very important movement that has some kind of philosophy behind it that is overlapping with liberated companies. In my view, the focus in this movement, it's not about leadership. It's more about the principles of organization, maybe some philosophical principles of our business, a capitalistic business. We focused on really how to help leaders to transform their organization and bring it from the traditional command and control organization to the one that is based on freedom and responsibility. So all our work is a work on leadership, not on organization.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. And there is a map, actually. Isaac previously showed me a map of corporate liberated companies, and I was really surprised. There's quite a few. If you want that information, you can email me. Thank you so much, Isaac. We're going to interview again about, I know you have an upcoming book called Leadership Without Ego, and in the next series, so we're going to interview about that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Vitaly.